We're taking the unusual step of briefing you this year on the Council's budget position, and in particular, a decision that was taken at the Council budget meeting back in February, and the potential impact on children's services and on schools across Falkirk. In addition, a frequently asked questions document is available and has been published on the Council website. This presentation is in 4 main parts and follows a short video which will help to set the overall picture.
The current financial challenges for Falkirk Council means changes must happen across our school service provision. We must find workable solutions to maintain the high quality learning our young people receive and at the same time make substantial savings. Falkirk Council, like many councils, is facing difficult financial decisions. The money we have available to spend on services is lower than the cost of the services we currently provide. Our financial situation has never been more challenging. We cannot provide everything that we currently do with less money. It's simply not possible. We need to find a workable solution that will let us deliver our priorities and achieve good results while still saving money, combined with minimal impact to our pupils' access to learning and achieving positive outcomes. This is our challenge. To put it in clear terms, over the next 5 years, Falkirk Council needs to fill a budget gap of around £64 million. And every service across the council has been tasked to make savings. We all need to look at ways to save money whilst maintaining a high quality service provision. It is expected that we as a service need to save around £40 million over the next 5 years, and this will come from service changes. There is no other way. We cannot make the necessary savings if we continue as we are. There will be significant implications for primary schools, particularly around staffing levels as seen in other local authorities. Fewer staff means higher pupil-to-staff ratios and a further reduction in leadership, teaching and support for pupils. Schools will lose the flexibility to offer the current range of supports for children and young people. Simply, it would lead to reducing the capacity to provide the right support at the right time to the right people. By changing the learning week for pupils, we can better protect education service delivery for all children. In secondaries, our goal is to maintain the current curriculum offering and opportunities that we provide to our pupils. Without action, classes currently offered in the senior phase would reduce, limiting option choices and pathways and impacting on positive destinations. Also, the non-statutory but very important support arrangements we have in place, like targeted support and nurturing programmes, would be jeopardised due to staffing constraints. This would be concerning, given the increased health and wellbeing needs and increased additional support needs profile across the council. Basically, doing nothing is not an option for us. We need to consider the best way forward for the circumstances that we are in. We are now entering a time when decisions could impact on our curriculum, the support our young people receive, and the quality of what we deliver. We need to be bold. We need to do something that will provide us with more certainty for what lies ahead and to protect what we value the most. And we are proposing changes to the pupil week for young people in primary and secondary. In primary, this would mean moving to class contact time of 22.5 hours, spread over 4.5 days per week. This is sometimes called an asymmetric week. In secondary, we would also move to an asymmetric week over 4.5 days. Instead of each period being 50 minutes, they would each be 45 minutes. We would also reintroduce form class. Early years provision will remain unchanged at 30 hours per week, although the spread of these hours across the week may be altered. By moving to an asymmetric week, it will allow us to maintain, to a large extent, the key features that make our education in Falkirk a success. It allows us to retain the best of our current system, maintaining the curriculum we deliver with no impact on attainment. Learning doesn't stop when a young person leaves the classroom. Through capital investment, young people can continue to access their learning resources and receive feedback from their teachers using their connected Falkirk device. We are committed to providing the children and young people of Falkirk with an education provision that will prepare them to become integral members of society. It is our #1 priority, and this new approach has been proposed to protect this aim. The Friday lunchtime finish is pivotal in this. If you need help and advice on childcare provision, please see our FAQs. The asymmetric model is already in operation in 8 local authorities across Scotland. Many schools have been running this for several years and have seen the positive impact in terms of school-life balance, mental health and well-being. And the early Friday finish offers opportunities for young people to explore new interests and hobbies. Ultimately, what we're trying to do here is to develop a model of learning that is both sustainable and connected, that will help to unburden the budget and that will help continue to unlock the potential in our young people. Let's work to build a brighter future for our children and our community. We need to do this together.
It's important to step back and have a think about what we value in Falkirk, what's important to us. We also need to be conscious of the fact that every year we've had to make savings or cuts, but we've still managed to deliver high quality experiences for our young people, which deliver positive outcomes in terms of attainment, positive destinations and improved outcomes for all Falkirk learners. What is it that we wouldn't like to see being changed? We have high quality, well trained and supported class teachers. Moving forward, this new model protects the key classroom teacher, pupil and family relationship. We have high quality learning and teaching across the curriculum, with almost all HMIE inspections from 2020 onwards grading learning, teaching and assessment as good or better. We have been progressive and ambitious through the development of curriculum rationales that meet the needs of local learners. Constantly adapt our curriculum and have a consistent focus on literacy, numeracy and health and well-being, and this will always be the case. We strive to meet the needs of all learners and constantly remove barriers to education. Protecting the key relationship with classroom teachers ensures that they retain a clear oversight of the planning around children's additional support needs. That's some of what's important to us and what we value, and it helps us to deal with some of the challenges that we face daily. Across Scotland and in Falkirk, we have lower levels of attendance than we've seen before. In primary, attendance from 2022 to 2023 in comparison to 2018 to 2019 is down by 1.8%. In secondary, attendance in 2022 to 2023 in comparison to 2018 to 2019 is down by 2.68%. There are an increasing and broader range of additional support needs than ever before, with 32% of young people in Falkirk having an identified additional support need. Mental health issues in our young people are increasing and schools must deal with this. Some young people are not making the right choices in terms of their behaviour. Schools have worked hard to implement the appropriate support mechanisms so that everybody is able to learn in a calm, purposeful environment. There is a feeling that support all round has reduced and that education is the only remaining universal frontline service. This is the impact of years of continued cuts now becoming apparent. And whilst other services in the council have perhaps taken a larger share of the cuts in previous years, children's services have always strived to contribute to the overall aim of the council to be as efficient as possible. However, there are unique factors within the education service, including a significant number of ring-fenced budgets and guidance on teacher numbers that have restricted what we can do to flexibly use the funding that we receive. There are fewer teachers now in our schools. In primary, this means that teachers have now been removed from our early learning and childcare centres. In secondary, there are 79 fewer teachers in the system today compared with 5 years ago. There is less management time now in our schools, so it's reduced the capacity and takes longer for staff to respond to concerns from parents or deal with any issues that arise between pupils. Despite the fact we have an increasing and broader range of young people with additional support needs, we have less support staff working with young people in classrooms, providing them with the help that they need. Overall, primary hours have been reduced by 13% and secondary hours have been reduced by 36%. And any flexibility we have around funding coming from the Scottish Government has been removed, with the exception of pupil equity funding, which is ring-fenced for a very specific purpose. In other words, whilst the small changes don't seem much from year to year, we've adapted and we've got by. However, when you piece all of the bits together, it's a very challenging picture that's created. But within all of that, we've still managed to deliver high quality experiences for our young people, which deliver positive outcomes. But the Council is at a pivotal moment. You will have seen on the news that public finances across the UK are facing many challenges. The settlement received by the Scottish Government from the UK Government ultimately impacts on the budget of local authorities. For the past few years, local authorities, including Falkirk, have had to make difficult decisions to balance their budgets, which they're legally required to do. But this year, in particular, we've been informed that the challenges are on a different scale to those that the Council has had to face before. For a number of years, the funding received has not increased in line with inflation or higher than expected pay awards, and the savings have had to be found to help balance the budget. The Council has been notified of its settlement from the Scottish Government, and the money that officers were expecting to receive is lower than they thought. So there's not enough money to pay for all of the things that the Council currently does. Added to that, the Council is proposing to raise council tax in order to raise more revenue. Falkirk currently has the 6th lowest level of council tax in Scotland, but there's been a national announcement from the Scottish Government that council tax has been frozen, and it's been reported to us that this causes further budget issues. So the situation is that there is a very significant budget gap. For Falkirk Council, that totals around 62 million over the next 5 years, but 30 million of the 62 million is for next year, for 2024 to 2025. So what does that mean for children's services across Falkirk? Well, the big picture is that the overall revenue budget for the council is around 518 million. Around half of that budget, 250 million, is children's services. The other two directorates in the council are place services, who deal with issues such as public and school transport and refuse collections, and transformation, communities and corporate services, who deal with issues and services such as benefits, legal issues, registrars, payroll, pensions and IT. Place services accounts for around 13% of the overall budget, or 69 million. TCCS accounts for around 10% of the overall budget, 54 million. So the scale of the overall savings required over the next 5 years, 62 million, could virtually wipe out either of these two directorates. So with that in mind, the budget can only be balanced if there's a significant contribution from children's services. So service savings, or cuts, is really what we need to consider. The council can't continue to do the same things with less, so things cannot carry on as normal. Over the next 5 years, children's services' share of the cuts is around 40 million. 40 million from 62 million in total. That's 15% of the current budget. We need to consider the best options we have given the circumstances that we're in. We're entering a time when decisions could impact on our curriculum, the support our young people receive, and the quality of what we deliver. Children's Services were tasked by the corporate management team to look at ways in which significant savings could be realised whilst minimising impact on the service, keeping in mind what we value, what's important to us and our young people. So whatever we do, as difficult as it might be, we have to plan a way forward. It's time to step back and do something that will provide us with more certainty for what lies ahead. And that is by making a change to the learning week for pupils. In primary, the proposal is to change the learning week to 1,350 minutes, or 22.5 hours. This new model protects and maintains the 22.5 hours each class has with their allocated class teacher, with a particular focus on literacy, numeracy and health and well-being. This ensures no impact on attainment. Every primary teacher is trained and qualified to deliver every aspect of the curriculum. A current week for a primary child with a full-time teacher is currently made up of 22.5 hours, so 1,350 minutes with that teacher. This is the contractual maximum class contact time for a teacher. The further 2.5 hours beyond this are provided by a range of other teaching staff who will work with a range of different classes across the school. These 2.5 hours are split across the week into blocks of time, so primary children, including the youngest, could have up to 3 or 4 separate teachers within a day. For some children, having to manage all these relationships causes distress and dysregulation. Under the proposals, a typical day could look like this, but with flexibility for local contexts. What we're showing through this example is that predominantly each day starts and ends within a few minutes of the current start and end times. Several schools already operate a soft start procedure where there is a window of time when children can arrive to class, and further to this, some offer food on arrival. This new model will not change any of this. It would also allow a little more flexibility at the start and the end of the day to support attendance and reduce late coming. 8 out of 32 local authorities already run an asymmetric week with school closures, and adopting this approach in secondaries and special schools too will save in the region of 6 million. Falkirk has a skilled and committed workforce that is in a strong place to take forward change that might seem unusual, but we will be taking the best of the past into the future. Key to this future vision is the continued core relationship between children and their class teachers. Schools have found that in this post-COVID landscape, the strength of core relationships is paramount in ensuring learning success. Currently, even our youngest children have teachers' non-class contact time delivered by a range of other adults who are often only in class for an hour a week. They simply do not have the time to foster and maintain the deep, trusting relationships that our young learners need, particularly those with additional support needs. In this new model, learning times are driven by pupil need and are not dependent on the timetabling constraints of peripatetic staff delivering non-class contact time. Transition arrangements will be in place to ensure the specialisms contained within the peripatetic team are developed with class teachers, developing their professional knowledge, skills and pedagogy. We don't really have a choice here. It's now time to take bold decisions. It's our job to make sure that our young people and our staff have the ability to continue to grow. The proposed changes to the Learning Week have been thought through carefully. They will help to recognise the fiscal position that the Council is in, deliver a significant saving, but protect what's important to us. And that involves a change to the Learning Week for pupils in secondary and the move back to a 33-period week with the reintroduction of form class. How would a 33-period week operate? There will be 7 periods from Monday to Thursday, so that's 28 periods in total. There will then be 4 periods in a Friday, taking the total to 32 periods. Moving to an asymmetric week means that we will close at lunchtime on a Friday, but each of those 32 periods, instead of being 50 minutes long, will now be 45 minutes instead. So if a teacher had a double period with their class, instead of having them for 100 minutes, they would now have them for 90 minutes instead. Teachers will be able to plan for this by making slight adjustments to their timings, And because all of our pupils in secondary have the benefit of their one-to-one devices from Connected Falkirk, they'll be able to receive feedback from their teachers and access their course materials as and when they're required to do so. A single remaining 33rd period can be used for the reintroduction of form class, and this will help us to tackle those lower levels of attendance. It's important to state that teacher contracts are not changing, they will remain the same. At the moment, teachers can't be asked to teach more than 1,350 minutes. But what this does mean is that everything in our curriculum will be able to stay the same. Our young people's access to a broad range of subjects will remain, helping them to reach a positive destination. The additional targeted support and nurture that some of our young people require will also remain. But adopting this approach in primaries and in special schools too will save the Council in the region of 6 million. 1,485 is the number of minutes that a young person will be in school for. When you work out that over the course of a school year, this comes to 940.5 hours. The OECD average is 923 hours, so we're still above that. Mainstream secondary schools are moving back to a 33-period week and reintroducing a form period. However, at Canning Grange High School, routine and minimising transition is important for our young people as we move forward. We will retain our current structure as it stands, Monday to Thursday, 8:45am to 3:15pm. This will continue to include a soft start form period each morning, with breakfast club and regulation activities to allow for the setup of each day through positive relationships with familiar staff. Each day will continue to have 3 blocks of learning, 6 periods of 50 minutes each. Pupils will continue to follow a flexible and adaptive curriculum designed to suit their specific learning needs. Wellbeing time at the end of the pupil day will continue to allow for emotional regulation activities with pupils prior to transport home. Changes will be made to our practice on a Friday only, when school will start at the normal time of 8:45am and finish at 12 noon. Form period on a Friday will be retained as already outlined. Lifelong learning activities will be shortened to 1 block, 2 times 50-minute periods rather than 2 blocks. However, the skills and socialisation experiences developed and reinforced in these activities are already integrated into our curriculum offering throughout the pupil week, so will continue to be practised and reinforced. Staff will also encourage parents and carers to practice these skills at home, reinforcing independently learning experiences and building upon what's been worked on in school. The wellbeing period at the end of the pupil day on a Friday will be retained. This will continue to support the setting up of weekend routines for pupils, as well as emotional regulation exercises to allow for processing and regulation prior to transport home. Physio, hydro and medical support will continue to be provided where appropriate as part of our curriculum engagement offering. All pupil clinics, including paediatric and orthotics clinics, will be retained as part of the school day to support families' access to special medical support. Pupils will continue to receive the same access to transport to and from school each day. With staggered start and finish times across all settings, this will help support and improve the transport contracts for our ASN learners. This will bring pupil contact to 1,500 minutes, 15 minutes longer than the proposed mainstream secondary pupil week. When mainstream secondaries lost 50 minutes of pupil teaching time through the loss of form class 3 years ago, Canning Grange High School did not. Pupils at Canning Grange High School for the past 3 years have retained 1,650 minutes of face-to-face teaching time. Minimising change to routines is paramount in additional support needs settings. This model allows Canning Grange High School to continue to provide a high-quality, adaptive curriculum that suits the needs of its learners, building independent living skills and providing our young people with engaging learning experiences that will continue to enhance their lives. In Scotland, children can attend nursery for up to 1,140 hours per year if parents wish it. The 1,140 hours equates to around 30 hours per week over the course of the school year, or around 25 hours per week if children attend nursery over term time and during the school holidays. There is legislation regarding the entitlement of up to 1,140 hours, so it's not possible to reduce the learning week in nursery, as to do so would mean that the legal entitlement would not be delivered. This is the case regardless of which provider parents choose to send their child to nursery: a local authority nursery, a childminder, or a local private nursery. So, nursery provision, regardless of where it is delivered, is currently out of scope for the proposal. The Council would continue to consult parents regularly as to their current and future early learning and childcare needs. The alternatives would impact negatively on all of Falkirk's young people. In primary, there could be fewer classes in schools, pupil to staff ratios would need to increase, and this would lead to increased class sizes. There would also be a further reduction of staff in school leadership, teaching and support roles, leading to a reduced capacity to deliver high quality and innovative digital learning experiences, a reduced capacity for senior leaders to lead and develop improvements at a system level, and a reduced capacity in schools to provide the right support at the right time to the right people. The removal of non-statutory functions such as nurture supports, targeted and specific interventions could become commonplace, especially those provided by staff who are not class committed. There would be an increased uncertainty around the sustainability of funding for targeted and flexible supports in school, currently provided by a range of partners. The new model allows us to maintain, to a large extent, the key features that make our education in Falkirk a success, and it's imperative to unburden the budgets whilst unlocking the potential within our learners. This model retains the best of the current system and allows us to maintain support for our young people and families that would be otherwise unsustainable. As a frontline service that does not turn anyone away, reducing our capacity to do this would put significant additional strain on other parts of the council. In secondary, the broad range of different types of qualifications and subjects at different levels would be significantly restricted. This would close off pathways for pupils, impacting on their destinations and long-term economic prosperity. Level 7 Advanced Higher Learning would be under threat because these classes tend to be smaller and less efficient. An emphasis would be placed on non-practical classes because they are more efficient and cheaper to run, and therefore further restrictions would come into play regarding choices for pupils. An overall reduction in staffing levels would mean that schools would have to make choices to remove or delete aspects of their current curriculum, for example, core PE in the senior phase. Options, wider achievements and other opportunities to develop new skills would also be under threat. The opportunity for interventions to take place, whether in subjects or within pupil support, would be under threat. Non-statutory provisions, such as nurture bases or targeted support, would need to be stripped away. This would impact in classes right across the school, as our young people with more complex needs, either ASN or SEBN, would be in larger mainstream classes. Cuts to support staff budgets would limit the support we would be able to provide to young people in and out with class. Trying to maintain what we've always done with reducing budgets limits capacity in the system to go over and above, and this will impact on outcomes for families and communities and our other services across the council. We want to protect that. Finally, integral to the success of this proposal to change the Learning Week is a renewed capital investment in Connected Falkirk, so that we can continue to provide high quality digital learning experiences, allowing pupils to access their learning resources at a time and place of their choosing, and allowing them to continue to receive regular high quality feedback from their teachers using their device. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is develop a model of learning that is both sustainable and connected, that will help to unburden the budget and that will continue to unlock the potential in all of our young people. This link points towards the Council website with the introductory video and a set of frequently asked questions. The website also allows you to ask additional questions or seek clarification, and provides access to the Participate Plus system to allow you to submit your feedback on the proposals. Feedback gathered via the Council website and Participate Plus will be analysed and considered, with a report going back to the Council on the results of the engagement at some point following the summer break. Thank you for taking the time to review this presentation.